live. We are live. We are live on IG and YouTube. Yes, indeed. Welcome back to Talk Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Sponsored by Done Talk, DUNTALK.com. Like, subscribe, comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're in Done Talk tonight. And yes, the spring summer line out now. Done Talk, DUNTALK.com. Spring summer line out now. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Talk Live as I get my camera ready on the YouTube. And we are good to go. And yes, indeed, a very special someone told me my face was shiny. So I have to be getting myself some foundation. So there's another improvement for the show, including camera work and all this other stuff, which we will be rolling out in the days and weeks to come. Now, just having some nice, I think it's bubble tea anyways, or some flavored tea anyways, so that can keep me awake and alert as we go on here, because your man here had a pretty long day, to be fair. And, more bad news, as one of my sister's friends has succumbed to cancer herself. And I will leave it to my sister to do those details, but I wish her and her family my condolences in these days and weeks to come. And yeah, I'm very... It's a person I've known for many a year, and I am, to be hit with two cancer deaths within a week, it's definitely a bit jarring, a bit unnerving, and again, my hearts and prayers goes out to a family, which will remain private for now, but in days and weeks to come, we will announce her passing. So again, not the best of weeks for me, to be sure, but as I always, as has to be said, the show must go on. So we're here on Talk Talk Live. We're here on a Thursday evening. Yesterday was a really long show, although I did get a little bit of a strike on that. So again, we will be releasing. I don't think that it went public outside of it being live. So we will be releasing a Talk Talk Live minute, which they can never say is besmirching any sort of copyright infringement, to be fair. And I'll make sure that tonight that we are using it with fair use tonight for investigative purposes only and for educational purposes only. So again, I'll make sure that that is going out, to be fair. And I was a bit lax with it without saying it yesterday, but I will not be so today. So again, what are we discussing tonight? Tonight we are getting on with AKON and his utopian, magical African city in Senegal. Now, I've been promised to do this thing for about a week or so, and I never did get around to do it properly. And I'm doing it tonight because this is something that a lot of people truly believed in. A lot of people truly believed in AKON's Magic City, and in Senegal, and it being a shining example of African innovation and construction and, well, basically cooperation. And we are here tonight to study what has gone on on AKON's Magic City, to see if indeed it is a city of dreams or a city of schemes. So come with me now as we go into AKON's Magic City. Right here live on IG and YouTube. And thank you very much for joining me on IG and YouTube on Talk Talk Live. And we are here all week. I probably may do a show tomorrow as well, but let's get into this. Let's get into the show without further ado. But thank you very much for joining me on Talk Talk Live. Like, subscribe, comment. On the road to 1,000 subscribers as we move on into the browser. There it is. There it is. So we are going to, let me just get mine on my screen here. We're going to the into the video. Well, it's kind of self-explanatory, isn't it? The Brutal Collapse of AKON's Scam City by Patrick C.C. Like and subscribe to Patrick C.C. He's doing wonderful, and I mean seriously, great investigative journalism here in these YouTube streets. And, I think he did a wonderful job in checking in on Mr. AKON and his movements in Senegal in trying to help not only the people of Senegal, but also the people of Africa in this in his new scheme or dream of a utopian type Wakanda-like city in Africa. And we're going to investigate that right now with this the brutal collapse of AKON Scam City by Patrick CC. Like and subscribe to Patrick CC, doing wonderful things in these YouTube streets. And actually, I'm going to subscribe to him right now here. Bang. There you go. I am subscribed here on Talk Talk Live. But yes, fair use, fair use, fair use. If I didn't say it yesterday, I'm definitely saying it today. So let's get into this with AKON and his, quote-unquote scam city, or should I say, city of dreams or city of schemes. Let's go.
Made an announcement that he was building his own $6 billion future city in Africa that looks like the hybrid of Dubai and the fictional city of Wakanda. AKON City is where innovation meets luxury, with 5 distinct districts designed to redefine urban living. See the African Village District, where modern waterfront homes beckon, and a sprawling, all-inclusive resort awaits your indulgence. Experience exhilaration in the Entertainment District, boasting a cutting-edge multi-purpose stadium and a colossal casino for endless excitement. Witness the future unfolding in the Tech District, poised to become the Silicon Valley of Africa, where groundbreaking technologies shape tomorrow's world. And of course, the essential Health and Safety District, because public services such as police stations, fire departments, and a general hospital are key to residents' quality of life. The Education District will provide comprehensive learning opportunities for both children and adults, ensuring growth and development for all. And lastly, the glamorous Senewood District, which features 4 state-of-the-art filming studios, offices, and residential spaces, all culminating with the iconic AKON Tower piercing the skyline to glorify the genius who created this futuristic urban oasis. For the past 4 years, AKON and his team have been preparing this city to be ready for you to experience by 2024. And just 4 years later, this is what AKON City looks like today.
Before we get into it, quite simply, as you can see, the juxtaposition between dream and reality is quite stark. It is quite stark, but you may not know who AKON is, and I forgot to introduce AKON in full. Now, if you are living under a rock over the last 10 years and you don't realize who AKON is, so let's go in together to find out who this America singer and rapper is. This is AKON, yes, 51 years old. I never knew he was that old, but again, he was from Senegal. And we're going to get into his music catalog. He's sung a lot of hits, as you can see here, like Smack That, Lonely, Right Now, Don't Matter, Shamak Shallow, Bonanza, I Want to Love You, Beautiful. I mean, and again, the list goes on and on and on and on. This is a man who made a lot of hits during the early noughties, early to mid to late noughties, and early 2000s, and mid 2000s. The song that got him started really was Locked Up, as you know here, 2003, and Ghetto and Bartender. I mean, listen, the hits go on and on and on. This is a very successful, very, very, very successful music artist. Quite simply, like Clap That, Come On No, Freedom, Birthmark, Like I Never Left, Oh Africa. I mean, there's a lot of hits from this gentleman. So he is well known in the music industry, and again, he has been on many a chorus and many a successful song over the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years. I mean, you couldn't be on a great track unless chances are, if AKON was on a track, it would be a successful one. That's all we have to say. And again, he created his own label, Convict Music, I believe. And he's quite successful, AKON, as you can see here by his Wikipedia. Fair use. And he has made a very, very big name for himself in terms of his musical career. And, listen, there we go. He said AKON started a new record label, Con Live Distribution, on Interscope Records. His second album, Convicted, was released in 2008 and debuted at number 2 on Billboard 200. So you can see, this man was a very successful music artist, and he worked with such people like Snoop Dogg, like Eminem, like Styles P. Gwen Stefani. What else we have here? Well, let's face fact. Young Jeezy. I remember Young Jeezy. Yeah, Young Jeezy. He did a few collaborations with him, like I'm So Paid, Lil Wayne. Listen, if there's anybody in that who was making big waves in urban music at the time of the early 2000s and into the noughties, into 2010, 2018, you had to have known of AKON. Now, AKON stepped away from the spotlight, the musical spotlight, and decided to make a name for himself on his own. So let's get into that right now. So you have a little bit of background as to who AKON is, but now we'll see what he did since then.
Lies, corruption, collusion, a shady cryptocurrency, stealing native land. These are just a few of the villainous acts AKON has been accused of during this disastrous project. At first, many of his supporters saw him as a noble man making valiant efforts to create a real-life utopia, but now they question why the guy who believes that all men are divine kings to be worshipped by women wants to create and lead his own city. But before we get into the fall of AKON City, it is important to understand the actual amazing achievements AKON has made for over a dozen African nations. After AKON made millions of dollars in the music industry, he wanted to extend resources to Senegal, which is where he is from. Growing up, AKON knew the struggles of living in the dark once the sun went down. The town in Senegal that he grew up in, like many others, had no access to running water or power. Local economies were forced to shut down businesses when the sun set, and families were constrained to candlelight and kerosene lamps to complete their nightly tasks, resulting in over 3 million deaths each year from harmful fumes and fires. In 2014, AKON Lighting Africa was launched. In the first year of AKON's Lighting Africa project, he brought solar energy to 14 different African nations. And although his intentions were noble, he had to implement borderline unethical strategies to convince nations to invest in solar. But before we get into that, a quick word from today.
So before we get into his, there's a bit of a sponsor there by Patrick CC, so we're just getting past that. But it gives me a good opportunity to take a break here and let you know that that is what AKON did. He stepped away from the music industry and decided he wanted to plow a lot of his resources into Africa, into lighting Africa, into modernizing Africa, which was noble, which is quite noble. And a lot of people gave AKON a sincere kudos for, going back to his homeland, going back to his home continent and trying to modernize it through solar energy. However, as we have heard by Patrick CC, fair use, fair use. The fact of the matter is, the way he did it wasn't exactly on the up and up. So we're going to investigate that right now. Sorry about that. There we go.
Strategically approached nations who had upcoming elections, then installed solar systems for free in the village of the leader's choice, such as installing streetlights and solar panels for homes and businesses. Then it made those leaders look like they were invested in progressing their nation, which led to them receiving more votes from citizens. It came to the point that once that village was lit up, now the neighboring villages would bring pressure to the government and ask those same questions. How come we ain't lit up? Although many are critical of this tactic, at the end of the day, the communities are the ones who benefit the most. The solar electricity has allowed the vendors to operate for longer hours into the night and for children to study after dark. Also, just the simple installation of streetlights led to decreased crime rates due to the visibility the solar-powered street lighting provides. By 2020, AKON Lighting Africa has installed 100,000 solar-powered street lamps, 1,200 solar microgrids, and has created more than 5,000 jobs. But many people...
So let's just taking it back there. I mean, AKON did a very noble thing, as is seen here. I mean, 100,000 solar-powered street lamps installed in 480 African communities through 16 nations, 1,200 solar microgrids, and 500 jobs created. Now, again, that's noble. That is fantastic. That's more than most, if not all of us on this earth would ever do. But again, it was done through elections in different African nations. As you said, as we were saying, there were about 22 African nations. So there it is, 25 African nations participating in this scheme, and all these changes happened during election time. Coincidentally and quite fortuitously, because that allowed for AKON to move in, give them free lighting, make the politicians look good in terms of getting electricity into, and street lamps into favored towns of prime ministers of government, and with that allowed for them to get more votes, especially during election years. But again, to neighboring counties and states and cities and towns that didn't get this lighting, they wish to profit from it as well. So therefore, they are left quite literally in the dark. So it was sort of a quid pro quo, where AKON looks good in supporting these African nations, but they were done during elections in which these African nations needed that sort of support, which allowed for more votes. And in turn, those votes kept many a politician, many a statesman, many a political leader in office. So it was win, 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 win. But now we're going to investigate how he got the money to do this. Let's go. Sorry about that. Let's go.
Street lamps, 1,200 solar microgrids, and has created more than 5,000 jobs. But many people question how AKON was able to finance a project of this size. Sure, his music was successful, but we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure costs. Well, he was able to land a line of credit for up to $1 billion worth of solar equipment with the finance arm of China Jiangsu International Group, which is a Chinese government-owned construction firm. Most of these African nations could not afford the upfront money for installing solar infrastructure, but AKON's line of credit allowed the governments to pay in installments.
But when Bush was in power, Bush created a 200% tax on all solar or all solar-related renewable energy coming into America. So all that investment, those billions of dollars of investment that China put into this, was just sitting in factories and sitting in China, couldn't be used. So I took advantage of that and went down to China and to partner with some of those companies that couldn't use all that investment that they already put for Europe and America.
Because of AKON's efforts, an estimated 28.8 million people can now enjoy the same benefits of electricity that much of the world has enjoyed for decades.
You've always said that China has done more for Africa than any other country.
I mean, it's true. That's not something anybody can argue with.
Yeah.
I mean, they came, they laid down infrastructure. They actually did something that the European countries been around for 400 years and did nothing. That's why if you see Africa now hasn't been developed. This was the responsibility of France, Great Britain, Italy, Germany. These guys have been in Africa forever, and it's never been developed. China just started putting interest in Africa. Now you have roads, roundabouts, like they're actually putting structure down.
Now, China has been investing in Africa since the early 2000s, but their interest has dramatically increased in the past 10 years, having loaned $170 billion to 49 different nations. And while the Chinese government investing in Africa is a major step forward into the advancement of those nations, some people think that they have a secret evil motive behind their interest. Now, obviously...
Now, this is where the rub comes in, ladies and gentlemen. And I've had... always had, I credit with China freeing up money so that they can help Africa move forward in terms of development. However, hello Chanel, hello Marlon. However, there's a problem with that, and that is that if China is going to invest all this money in Africa, they want something back. And more often than not, it's the resources that Africa holds. Now, for the last, I would say, 10 years, ever since China has been investing in Africa, they have been heavily siphoning resources from Africa. And basically creating this debt trap in which for the money that they loan, they want something in return. And more often than not, it's land ownership and, more importantly, resource ownership, as we'll get into right here.
These Chinese investments need to be paid back. The problem is that Africa's total debt from 2000 to 2022 is around $1.8 trillion, which is 300% higher than Africa's GDP growth rate in the same amount of time. Basically, they're in a lot of debt and don't have a stable way to pay back the money. But that might be exactly what the Chinese government wants. Debt trap diplomacy, or the Chinese debt trap, is essentially their strategy of building expensive infrastructure and assets that these African nations cannot afford, secretly hoping that they will stop making payments and then China will take control of their land or assets that they just built. Now, why would China want to control a bunch of land, resources, and assets in the middle of Africa? Your guess is as good as mine. But these theories were spawned after an investigation into these loan documents.
In one report which analyzed 100 Chinese contracts, it revealed that the loans are structured to give an advantage over other creditors, and allows action to be taken if the borrower acts contrary to the interests of a People's Republic of China entity.
Guys.
There are also unusual clauses that shroud agreements in secrecy.
So what exactly would constitute as acting contrary to the interest of a Chinese entity? Well, that's really vague, likely on purpose. Who knows what would legally count as acting contrary? And as far as these unusual confidential clauses, well, that alone is enough for some people to believe that China is trying to be vague and non-transparent on purpose. But others believe that this is just extremely standard contract practices that the World Bank and any other small bank in existence provides, and that the Chinese debt trap as a whole is just more Western propaganda to, 1, demonize Africa more, and 2, make Americans hate the Chinese government. Think about it this way. When you're buying a house, does the government, the media, or the banks call it a debt trap? No, they call it a smart and often necessary investment into your future. But if you can't make your payments on your house, they take it away, and now they own it. So wouldn't that make buying a house an American debt trap? It just comes down to whether you think China is doing extremely standard business, or do they want these nations to fall short on payments to take over their assets and gain power in Africa. Regardless.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen, as so eloquently said by Mr. CC. Sorry about that. I need to get the name. Patrick CC. Yes, indeed. Fair use, fair use, fair use. He's right. It is incumbent. That's the reason why America. Okay, I think we just rewind this back just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that is why America is so impressed. Well, I wouldn't say impressed. So needy in terms of paying back China all of the loans that they took from China in the 80s. Well, not to say the 80s. I would say during the 2000s, especially during certain depressive states of the economy, because they don't want to give China ownership of the United States. But in Africa, this sort of indebtedness to China may result in many of these states, as seen here, giving over ownership to Chinese business interests, and that is dangerous because you're basically giving away a continent to a nation such as China because of the fact that, well, you can't come up with the funds in order to create these modernities that you take for granted. So it's like Patrick CC was saying, you buy a home and when you buy a home, you have a mortgage, and if you can't pay on the mortgage, you're foreclosed. If you're foreclosed, the house belongs to the bank. Same here. China loans you money, you can't pay back the loan, therefore China owns your country and all of its interests, and all of its resources as well. So they see this as a win-win situation in that they look good in giving the money, but also they can always take away the land and resources from Africa and be the new, well, let's say owners of Africa within the next, 40 to 50 years, which is scary. Extremely, extremely scary. Because again, I believe that Africa is being used as a resource despot that will siphon off all resources and bring it back to China for their own use or for business interests in which China will see it as, well, China will see Africa as a new Taiwan. China will see Africa as a new Vietnam, Singapore, or any of their other states in which China is heavily, heavily involved. And it's not exactly a great thing to think about. This is one of those great fears I have for the future, especially in terms of Africa and in terms of their independence and autonomy. But let me see if there are any questions here for us. And we're good to go. Okay. But yes, let's continue with this. And yeah, hey, listen, that's why I'm very, very afraid of what China can do. But who bought into this scheme? Who bought into these ideas? Who bought into this indebtedness? AKON did, because without that investment from China, many cities within Africa, those 25 cities in which he invested in terms of solar power, would not have that power right now. So, again, AKON is basically China is basically the promoter or the hype man, if you want to use a musical term. He's the hype man for China, because without China, he wouldn't have his scheme in order to light up Africa. And I would say in turn, well, you'll see in a minute. Let's go.
Their assets and gain power in Africa. Regardless, AKON's relationship with these Chinese financiers and previous success with lighting Africa allowed him to pitch his newest venture, AKON City. He claims that he was able to get his $1 billion credit line raised to $5 billion with these Chinese investment groups. Following the announcement of the city, AKON went on a publicity tour promoting the new project.
The president of Senegal gave you 3 square miles of land.
Well, this is the thing. I had to actually buy the land, so it wasn't gifted to me. But what the president and the government are doing, they're actually laying the foundation for all the infrastructure on the land. The basic sewage, electricity, things like that. All the things that have to be set forth for me to build the city on top of.
Okay.
And they give me 100% full support.
The city will be built on a 3 square mile plot just 60 miles from Dakar, the capital and largest city in Senegal. Now, 3 square miles is not a ton of land. That's 2,000 acres, or a little more than double the size of Central Park in New York City. However, AKON says this version of the city is just phase 1 of a multi-phase plan. He also announced during this time that AKON City would operate fully on their own cryptocurrency called AKON. AKON is a stellar-based cryptocurrency designed to fuel rising entrepreneurs in Africa and beyond. AKON will be used as a common medium of transfer between Africa's 54 countries, each with its own volatile currency, allowing African citizens and entrepreneurs to engage with the digital economy with only a mobile phone.
People don't always have access to, bank accounts and so on, but everybody has a phone.
Everybody has a phone.
So with the phone, you can make payments.
Absolutely.
And that's how it all kind of fits in.
That's
to the
where
thing.
it makes all the sense in the world.
Okay.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You have AKON, which is seen as an African-wide currency. You have AKON taking a $5 billion loan from China to build this AKON City. And you have the Senegalese government giving him the plot of land in order to build it. So it's again, not exactly the most, solid of foundations in order to build this city for AKON, this AKON City. However, you got to start somewhere, right? So he's taking this risk of building a city on land allotted to him by the Senegalese government, in which they call AKON City, which is built by the Chinese and is supported also by this cryptocurrency called AKON, which is deemed as African wide. So you see the ins and outs and the financiering of AKON City. Now let's see how this plan is implemented, shall we?
AKON is not a groundbreaking technology. Many Africans have adopted crypto for everyday use as it is generally more stable and flexible than their country's native currency. But even before crypto was adopted, over 50 million Africans use M-Pesa, or mobile minutes, which is kind of like the Cash App or Venmo of Africa. Millions of Africans can transfer money to family members in different countries or pay for goods and services with ease using M-Pesa. It would be significantly easier for AKON city residents if the country was built around a more commonly used cryptocurrency or just sticking with M-Pesa. So why AKON?
How much AKON do you actually own?
I mean, I am the bank.
AKON said it himself. He is the bank. Not only is he building a city named after him, but also creating the currency that he controls and owns the most of. Before launching his AKON cryptocurrency, the AKON website announced a pre-sale opportunity called the Token of Appreciation or TOA campaign. This pre-sale was treated like a donation, and donors were promised 4 tokens for every $1 spent. AKON was launched on most major crypto exchanges in early 2021 and peaked at around 58 cents, which at the time was around a 132% gain for the TOA holders if they sold. However, the majority believed in AKON, so they held. Within a few months, the price began spiraling down to roughly 10 cents per coin, taking TOA holders from a 132% gain to a 60% loss. Due to the shocking dip, AKON admins offered a refund to their initial donors. One donor named Marcus said, "The refund was meant to come a few weeks later. We are now over a year, and we're back at the same situation we were years ago with the lack of communication, and now everybody's up in arms." But Marcus isn't alone. The owner of the
Yeah, what was once seen as such a promising launch has, well, literally imploded, especially with the crash of the cryptocurrency and the crypto markets. They're making their way back, but still, a lot of people lost a lot of money, including AKON and all of his investors and all the investors in the cryptocurrency. So now people are wanting their reinvestment back, and you saw what AKON representatives have said. They said we will get you your money back, but it's now been a year onwards. And remember, this has started since 2020. So again, cryptocurrency was didn't hit its actual fall until I say 2022, 2023, and then really people really wanted their money back. But however, as is with all cryptocurrencies, if you invest, it's a buyer beware. It's a buyer beware scenario. I know it's a situation. I hate saying situation. It's a buyer beware scenario in that if you don't invest wisely, you can lose your money. You can lose your shirt. You can lose a lot of your finances and wealth, quite simply, by backing the wrong horse, including AKON. So AKON promised the money back. Till now, I would say a good amount of people. I would say 95, not 100% of people who invest in AKON have not seen their money back. However, there's one person who still did not lose money with the AKON investment. And guess who that was? Let's go.
A Go Black to Africa YouTube channel showed proof of him emailing AKON admins only to be ignored for years. The YouTuber wrote to Andrew of the AKON Foundation requesting a refund on December 19th, 2021. Andrew replied 22 days later and said that the YouTuber was added to the list for refund requests and we will be reaching out shortly regarding further details on how to proceed. The YouTuber provided his physical mailing address, which Andrew claimed was the next step towards a refund, only for him to be ignored for 4 months with no refund, and now it has been 3 years and still no refund. When AKON was asked about these refunds, he said he had no idea there was any problems.
That I was because I know all the people that I know that was on record. We definitely met with everybody, and this was the agreement that was actually agreed on. So if there was anyone outside of that, I definitely wasn't aware.
And those people who asked for their money back, I'm expecting a year ago, when will they receive their money?
Well, that I'm just literally on everything finding out. So I'm gonna definitely get more involved and figure out what that's about. But we do have instruments in place to make sure those people are happy, even if I gotta go in my own pocket.
But as far as we know,
yeah, that does not fill anyone with glee, including the YouTuber that was already mentioned, Go Black to Africa. I saw some of his footage with regards to AKON, and he is not well pleased with this man here. And he is, and to this point, and I believe I would say most, if not all, the investors in AKON, they have yet to see their money back. They have lost a lot of money, buying into an idea that AKON was going to help those in Senegal and build a city like AKON City. However, that has fallen on deaf ears. And as you can see, AKON here is using the same old song and dance to try to let everybody know that he was looking into reimbursing all those who invested in AKON. But that has not happened for the last 3 years. There you have it. If that doesn't tell you that what we're seeing here is, well, city of schemes, and I mean bad schemes, and I mean broken schemes, and I mean, wow. That's all I can say is wow. Let's continue.
And figure out what that's about. But we do have instruments in place to make sure those people are happy, even if I got to go in my own pocket.
But as far as we know, AKON has not come out of pocket to pay these people back. The coin eventually fell to $0.0029, which is essentially a 100% loss. At the moment, AKON is not listed on any cryptocurrency exchange, so nobody can buy it, sell it, or use it anywhere. It is worth nothing.
AKON had appeared that he was doing a good job, but it seems though that he is just like most who would want to use Africa only for his own benefit.
As if it couldn't get...
If you didn't know who that person is, that is the host of Go Black to Africa, and he's one of the investors in AKON, and he is not well pleased, as you can see. He is definitely not well pleased, and he feels he's being duped by AKON and his cohorts, and I wouldn't blame him. I really don't blame him. This is such a shame that a man who clearly has good intentions, like the gentleman from Go Black to Africa, would, basically scam those who wish to see good in Africa, which is a shame. Which is Africa's Achilles heel altogether. Let's continue. And now you've already seen that the value in AKON is now zero. It's pretty much nil. There is no value in AKON, and therefore people who purchased said monies in AKON have basically lost all of it. Let's continue.
Was doing a good job, but it seems though that he is just like most who would want to use Africa only for his own benefit.
As if it couldn't get any worse, AKON City today is an utter ghost town. Last year, this picture went viral of one singular Minecraft concrete brick laid in the center of AKON City, showcasing an extreme lack of progress being made considering the fact that AKON said the city would be done by 2024. However, there is a little more than just this one stone. Today in 2024, you can see the first completed building, an extremely standard and non-futuristic building that they say is a recreational center. There's also another small, barely constructed building with a spiral staircase, which, to be fair, does look like a small version of what the original vision depicted. However, 99% of the land remains vacant with wild cattle grazing. Yes, technically construction has begun, but as you can see, this is a far cry from the futuristic megacity we were promised. AKON blamed the pandemic, saying everything would be pushed back by 2 years, which doesn't really make sense considering he announced AKON City to the international media when the pandemic was at its worst moments. The unfortunate part about the land that's just sitting unused is that the land belonged to several hundred people who are still owed compensation from the Senegalese government. The first phase of AKON City was supposed to be built on 55 hectares of land secured by SAPCO in 2009, eventually expanding onto a further 500 hectares by the end of the decade. Macky Sall, the president of Senegal, said, "My problem concerning the land is not with AKON. My problem is concerning..."
I need to just stop that for a moment, and I wanted you to read the rest of that that middle paragraph there that said, that land belonged to several hundred people who were owed compensation from the Senegalese government. That's right. People lived on that land, and they were kicked out by the Senegalese government for the dream of AKON City. They were kicked off the land. That's what people don't say. And for that dismissal from their land, they were supposed to be compensated. They have yet to see a dime. The Senegalese government, run by SAPCO, not by SAPCO, not run by SAPCO. The land development, public company called SAPCO had promised these people who were extricated from their land compensation for it. That hasn't happened yet. As says here, more than a decade later, some residents have yet to be compensated according to Diom. My problem concerning the land is not with AKON. My problem is concerning SAPCO because it is them who took the land from the villagers. So not only are investors out of pocket, villagers are out of land.
SAPCO, because it is them who took the land from the villagers. Originally, the Senegalese government's tourist board, SAPCO, was backing the project, saying, "We believe in AKON City, and we are all supporting AKON so that AKON City will come to life. It will attract tourists and investors in the region, and SAPCO is fully committed to the success of this project." But most recently, they have sent AKON a formal notice that if the project has not advanced by next year, its contract with him will be terminated. And since AKON has massively overpromised and massively underdelivered, people are starting to question his intentions in the first place. "I plan to retire in that city," he says confidently. "I don't like to use the word king of the city, but that's what it will turn out to be." Words like this have made some people believe that AKON City is just an empire to inflate his ego at best and a corrupt billion-dollar scam at worst. Additionally, AKON's views of the Western world's morals and gender roles has made people disagree with him as a leader.
But what happens in today's society, the woman chooses which role she want to play. In the last 10, 15 years, I haven't met a woman that can actually cook. I haven't met a woman that actually wants to clean the house. I've met the baddest bitches on the globe and asked to go to the bathroom, and the bathroom looked like shit. Hair all over the place, all kind of products. Like, come on now. That's a natural instinct. That's a natural instinct.
I'm with you.
Maybe this could just be a joke, but
I'm going to leave that right there. He's not right to say it, but he ain't wrong. He's not right to say it, but he ain't wrong. Let's continue.
But AKON does follow a very non-Western style of raising his 9 children with 7 different women.
Time you're at every single recital.
No, that's a white man's thing. Who cares about a recital? The reason why people like me can't spend every single day and minute with their children is because the mother's job is to be there with the children. I'm the man. My job is to provide comfort so the mother can provide and raise those children to be like me. Now, if it's a man, when a child gets to a certain age, that's my responsibility now to show him what a man's role and responsibility is. But you can't expect a man to conquer the world if he's home with children. In life, there's roles.
Yeah, no.
A man has his role.
Yes.
And a woman has her role.
Yes.
But the day the woman believes that the man is supposed to share her role with her, then that means she's lacking. So I don't go pull my wife out to the construction site to go pull nails and 2x4s because that's not her place. A guy ain't got time to be in the house all day with no kids.
Now, this could be chalked up to just a
Now, again, it's very red pill sort of attitude. It's very traditional conservative way of doing things. That is very pervasive in Africa. So he was raised on these tenets. Now, should we hate on him for it? As long as he's taking care of his kids, not really. But again, it definitely rubs westernized women the wrong way. Absolutely. But again, this is, he said it himself, a man is supposed to protect and provide. Now, the fact that he's had 9 children with 7 different women, well, it harks back to a sort of traditional way of doing things. However, I mean, Nick Cannon had the same issue, but nobody bothers him because he can take care of his children. So if he can take care of his kids, who are we to judge? But again, his ideals will rub Western, would rub the West, aka, the gynocracy, definitely out of sorts. Yes, absolutely. But again, these are his beliefs, and very red pill, and is very traditional. I'll say that. So I can, as long as he can take care of his kids, let him have these sort of attitudes, because again, it's not hurting anybody. Let's continue.
Traditional style of raising a family, but sometimes he justifies his beliefs with extreme levels of bro science.
So, as a woman, her role is to support the man. The man, we are the kings and the divine of this universe. A woman can never compare to the man. They have to understand that here in America. The women don't create life. They support the creation of life. A man right now can create life without a woman, but a woman can't create life without a man. If I wanted to create life right now without a woman, I would just shoot my sperm, put it in the incubator, and just give it 9 months, even maybe less with today's science, and a baby will be born. A woman can't do that.
Hopefully in AKON City, he is not in charge of the education curriculum because his science is considerably off here. AKON is likely referring to vitro gametogenesis, which is essentially creating an egg and a sperm outside of the human body to create a life. And the answer is no, we cannot do this right now. We can fertilize a female egg and a male sperm in a lab environment, but in order to give birth, the fertilized embryo must be transferred back to the woman's uterus. At the absolute worst, AKON
Okay, well, again, more red pill content. You can see this on Fresh and Fit. You can see this on whatever podcast. You can see the most red pill spaces. He ain't reinventing the wheel here. This has been spoken to ad litem, but again, it's a traditional way of looking at family and relationships. Take that as it will. Take it as you will. Take it as you will. Take it as you will. But the fact of the matter is, we're here about AKON City and its success or failure, and not about AKON's views on intersexual dynamics and love and relationships. We're not here for that. Very, very conservative. He's very, very African, which tends to be very, very patriarchal. Take it or leave it. Let's continue. Not much left to go.
A scammer with a god complex, who is willing to take Chinese money to build infrastructure that African nations cannot afford, only to line his own pockets while these nations crumble and get taken over by the Chinese government. Or at best, he is truly trying to build a futuristic utopia for Africans, and unfortunately, the massive political and economic responsibilities were far more than he could handle. And as of right now, AKON City won't exist for a very long time. But to be honest, it probably never will.
Thank you very much to Patrick CC. He did a wonderful job here. I mean, a sincerely great job in this in terms of this investigative journalism with regards to AKON City. And you saw what he had to say. Let me hear what you had to say here. Yes, literal song and dance convict music. Thank you very much, Lana. It's what can you say? What can you say? I mean, let me just go back to the full camp. AKON is a very complicated man. I think he has his hands in the past, his hands in the future. However, he has a lot of his hands in different people's pockets. Those are the Chinese. Those are the Senegalese government. Those of his investors into AKON. And all result in a project that is failing, if not failed, ladies and gentlemen. And that is something we have to take away from tonight, is the fact that, it's not a city of dreams, it's a city of schemes. It is and until we start seeing more development in that space, I very much doubt I very, very much doubt we ever will. AKON is, please very, a whole generation of music lovers, but he's not pleasing the Senegalese government. He's not pleasing the Senegalese people. He's not pleasing a lot of people in Africa through his choice of how to bring light to certain communities and not others, especially during election years. And is the jig up on AKON and his city? I believe it's only a matter of time, unless there's huge investment from more so from China in order to get this show on the road. That it will be a collapse. Now again, because I believe this Sacro has been alluded to here in this video, has already put AKON on notice that he needs to come up or do some sort of serious development in that area to build an AKON city or something close to it outside of a recreation center sooner rather than later. We have another comment by Atlanta BK. In your opinion, how does one separate the man from the work? The man and the work, though. I mean, I think one has to separate the music and the man himself. And again, you can also separate his views too, because again, these are three different things. I mean, his views are very traditional conservative. His investments tend to be a bit murky, to be fair, especially involving the Chinese government. But his music's great, and what he's doing for Africa is noble. Bringing light and technology to certain places in Africa is a very noble thing. And if he did that alone, I think it would be great. But when he got into his passion play of AKON City, it could be considered a bridge too far. It really could. It could be considered a bridge too far. And, a lot of people are very upset with AKON in terms of his lack of payback on Bitcoin, in terms of his extrication of, or should I say extradition of people from Senegalese land in which AKON City was supposed to be built, and they have yet to be returned, and yet these people who lived on these lands, maybe for hundreds of years, haven't been compensated. They haven't been compensated. So, what are we to do? The Senegalese government are taking steps in order to, divide themselves from AKON, because clearly this plan isn't working. And, the Chinese government are going to come in and say, I want these governments to pay the piper. And it may be AKON who may be the problem in terms of putting a lot of these countries in debt for no reason. Now, again, you have the lighting in certain cities within Africa, which is great. However, it may be short-term gain for long-term pain. And that is Chinese further ownership in Africa. And, Africa, as we know it, is changing before our eyes. And, you may not like what you see going forward. You may not. In terms of it being an autonomous state, it may turn into a Chinese state. And that is for Africa, lock, stock, and barrel. Not just for one country, not just for a few countries, not just for for the majority of countries, if not all of Africa. I've always feared that point in terms of how much money a lot of these governments are taken from Chinese investors and Chinese government. As I said, this is, it can be considered predatory loaning, because they know that these countries aren't going to be able to pay back, and that's where their ownership comes in. That's where the extraction of resources comes in. And that's dangerous. That is so very dangerous. However, for AKON himself, he needs to get right with God and give back what is owed. Because again, although it's like the old saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And AKON had great intentions for Africa. He wanted to bring light and technology and modernity to Africa, which was all good and noble in and of itself. But I think he could have stopped there. I think this whole AKON city has flopped. It is now can be considered a flop. I do not see the AKON investors getting their money back. I do not see the Africans who occupied the land in which AKON took over and SAPCO took over will be compensated. And yeah, that's in and of itself is it. However, if AKON proves us wrong, let him prove us wrong. But again, I very much doubt that he will. He'll be able to ever. I think this is, at the end of the day, a sort of scam to line his own pockets. And with those pockets lined now, especially after the AKON launch, crypto launch and distribution, even though it's worth $0, I'm sure he took his money and got it out of there before all is said and done. And that means he's not going to give a dime of those to the real investors with whom Go Black to Africa was one of those investors. And I feel sorry for them. I really do. But I'm glad he's holding AKON to account for his misdeeds. And it is hoped that more pressure be upon AKON to give back land, to give back money, to end this investment, and really help Africa get back onto his feet through his virtuous initiatives. Because as I said, it's not all bad what AKON is doing here, but it's not all good at all. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live. We're going to end it right there. It's as I said, it's going to be an hour. It's going to be a short one. Yeah, an hour short. But it is hoped that AKON can get this show on the road in terms of his own city. But doesn't look like it's going to happen. It doesn't look like it's going to happen at all, or else it would have been built by now. But again, I'm here to be proven wrong, and I'll hold my hands up and say that I am wrong, because I do wish to see this built. And but again, it is, I think, a bridge too far. But thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live. We'll announce tomorrow if we're going to have a show on Friday. Friday being tomorrow. But as promised, I am going to go right now, get a few of my Talk Live minutes up and running. I thank you very much for joining me tonight, to all my guests. And again, we may get a bit racier tomorrow if we do something. I have this whole, you have Fresh and Fit that we've yet to address, and also AKON. In terms of Kai Cenat. And Kai Cenat, what he's doing out there is wild. But again, he's one of the biggest streamers in the world. However, what he did with a Lady of the Night was shocking in and of itself. So we'll be able to discuss that on Talk Live. I think we'll go do that tomorrow. But do stay tuned if that indeed is the case. If not, we'll go with it on a later day, probably Monday or if not Tuesday. But thank you very much for joining me at Talk Live. We're going to leave you right there. We did about a 3-hour episode, near 3-hour episode last night. I think it was 2 hours, 30 minutes. But that was a copyright ban. However, we won't copyright ban my video that's going out tonight with regards to the Talk Live minute. I hope you support it. Like and subscribe and comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Sponsored by DunTalk.com right here, wearing the gear, and Spring Summer line coming very, very, very soon. I think it should be out within the next week or so, from what I hear from the owner. And again, thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live, and we'll leave it there tonight. Thank you for your participation, Instagram and YouTube, and we'll see you, and good night from Toronto. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live here on YouTube. Again, if you have any questions about this, leave your comments down below. I have been advised by my social media advisor that you need to leave your comments below in terms of how you feel about AKON and his city and how he is treating his investors, how he's bringing in China to, do his bidding in terms of lighting up Africa and his other initiatives, including AKON City, and how you feel about the investors in AKON, how you feel about the people who lived on the land in Senegal who are now off and who have not been compensated. It is a sad state of affairs. So leave your comments down below, and I hope you do so. If not here, then on Instagram. But we're gonna leave it there on Talk Live, and we're gonna end it straight on the hour. Sponsored by Dun Talk.